Now, last stop around the league on this episode, let's kick it on down to Baton Rouge, where Brian Kelly met with the media. They pushed it back due to weather. It was supposed to be on Tuesday, but this came on Wednesday. And, there's two storylines down here in Baton Rouge. Adding all these players, 17 players they have added via transfer portal or early enrollees for spring camp. Yeah, they needed to do it just to field a team here this spring in Baton Rouge. That has been a huge storyline. And, of course, Jayden Daniels, the Arizona State transfer. What is LSU getting with that? And what's the deal with, they convinced Miles Brennan to stay. Why were they doing that? If they're going to add Jayden Daniels, a little bit of a mixed messaging. Let's kick it over first to Brian Kelly. I just thought this was a fascinating comment here about adding all these players this offseason. And basically, they had to do it. There was no way around it. LSU, basically, the field practices needed to add this type of not only getting players, you can't just get bodies, but you got to get guys that have played and played at a high level, even if it's been at a lower level of college football.
To address that gap that I just mentioned to you, for us to get to 84, this isn't AAA. This is the SEC. So you better have a full roster of really good football players when you show up. You can't have 72 scholarship players, or the guys running down on the field, they're not going to be SEC players. So we had to address it. We did.
And if you caught it there, probably my favorite part about that was the fact that Brian Kelly hit home that a lot of these guys have ties to Louisiana, the state. And I hate to say this for Arkansas fans, but there's a couple Arkansas defenders now wearing LSU gear that I think he's specifically talking about here. But, credit Brian Kelly for just getting there. We all know we're making fun of him for the family and all that, but he's able to use these ties, not to him, but to the flagship program of that state and the lore that has. I mean, my God, Joe Fouché was, flying all over the field there just a couple months ago for Arkansas, beating LSU, carrying that damn boot like he had just won the lottery or something. You know what I mean? Yet he turns right around and suits up for LSU. Brian Kelly, and we probably got to credit Frank Wilson for this more than anything, but LSU and Brian Kelly had, they quickly realized we can tap into that, and that's how we'll get a lot of these players to come to Baton Rouge to help fill in the gaps. That's what we're going to have to do. Now, one player they were able to lure, and it has no ties to the state, but is fascinating, of course, is Jayden Daniels. And before we get to his comments specifically on the Arizona State transfer, I love the fact that, Brian Kelly, his comments on competition and how he runs his program, because, this is all new to us here in the SEC. We didn't follow Brian Kelly, didn't know exactly what we're getting. We know we're getting a hell of a winning coach, but I love him setting the tone down here, and he realizes quickly that this is what it's going to take to win at the SEC, and he's not resting on his laurels that he had there, his accomplishments at Notre Dame.
My job, is to build competition at every position. If you don't like competition, this isn't the place for you. I came down here because I love competition. So it starts with me, and it's going to run through every position. If competition is not what you like, then there's another school for you. And so at every position, we're going to build it with competition. If you love to compete, LSU's the place for you.
And I really like those comments because we've seen some of these coaches. They come into this league. They think they're ready for it. I've won at Cincinnati. I won at Central Michigan. I won at Wisconsin. They think they got it figured out. You don't got it figured out in the SEC till you get down here. Trust me. And many, many a good coaches have found that out the hard way. And if you're an LSU fan, you got to hope by these comments that Brian Kelly, hell, he gets his ass kicked by an SEC team every year when he was at Notre Dame. So maybe he's a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to that. He's buying into the SEC just means more. And for that, you got to be happy. I got to believe if you're an LSU fan. But the big thing here, Jayden Daniels, interesting comments, not only on that, but the message sent to Miles Brennan. many people assume when they got this Jayden Daniels, well, they just screwed over Miles Brennan again. I mean, these guys been waiting it out 5-6 years to start, feels like, minus the COVID season where he got to play a little bit and start for the Tigers. But what were those conversations like? And what is LSU seeing Jayden Daniels? And I'll give you my thoughts on the other side.
Coach Kelly, Garland Gillen, Fox 8, New Orleans. I don't need to know who's the starting quarterback tomorrow, but
I don't know, so I couldn't give you a good answer.
Didn't expect that. Your 4 scholarship quarterbacks, will they all be available to throw tomorrow? How do you decide the repetitions that they get each day? How are you going to split up between these 4 scholarship quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's certainly the number one question that should be asked is how do you figure this out? It probably was the one area that I spent more time with Mike and Joe than, what concept are we putting in the passing game? We're going to go seniority to start, 1 through 4, first in to last in. And then, the next time it might be last in to first in, until we get into a rhythm, that allows everybody to get enough reps where you can start to break those out. But you got to give it enough work, before you can start parceling them out.
It's been documented how you were able to convince Miles to come back from the portal. So I guess just could you walk us through what those conversations are like when you then, with him when you then bring Jayden in?
Again, I think we started with we just wanted to add more competition, and that nobody has the starting position. Go earn it. You've worked hard. He's changed his body. He's healthy. Remember when you threw, I think it was 4 touchdown passes against Missouri? You're an outstanding quarterback. Why can't it be you? And the same thing for Nuss, the same thing for Jayden. So I think it's just, the inner confidence that they all have in themselves that they can be the starter. Now, the second part of your question would be his ability to extend. I think he brings more than extending plays, actually. He was in an offensive structure and system which was really built towards ball control this past year, playing to a very good defense. We think that there's a lot that has not been tapped into with his ability to be a dual threat quarterback. He's got arm talent. He's got a high IQ, and he can run the football. He's a talented runner of the football. He wasn't asked to do that. He was more of an extender of plays. We think that there's much more to it than what he's brought over the last couple of years.
Now, I hate to be a Debbie Downer because, hell, I've not even studied this guy, so take my word for what it is. But whenever I hear potential when it comes to these players, it's different. Everybody loves to use the example of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow never started a game when he transferred from Ohio State. This Jayden Daniels has started for 3 seasons. Now, one of them was the COVID year, and it was, I think they only played like 4 games at Arizona State. So maybe that's a wash. I realized the freshman season was fantastic for Daniels, but his latest season was just terrible based on everything I've been told. So we're talking about a guy that in 3 seasons has shown 1 season of play that is pretty solid. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like when we're throwing around potential going into a guy's 4th year in college football and he's had every opportunity to show it on the field and he's only showed it in spurts, I'm not really buying the potential angle. That, to me, is more about a guy that is yet to see the field or, for whatever reason, maybe got injured, like a Miles Brennan. Hell, Miles Brennan, from what I've seen him play, when he's healthy, which admittedly has hardly been at all, he has looked good in those positions. So that's why I'm still clinging to the hope that Miles Brennan can make a name for himself in Baton Rouge. If I were him, I would not transfer out at LSU. You're not going to get a better opportunity in the SEC to play, and I think you're going to be able to unseat Jayden Daniels if you just show up and grind it out and you beat the guy that they hope and pray has got potential, but he's been playing for multiple seasons here, and it's been hit or miss, to be kind, for LSU's new transfer quarterback. All right, so hey, that's going to do it for this episode of the show. I appreciate each and every one of you hanging out. And as always, if you made it this far, if you wouldn't mind giving us that 5-star written review on the Apple Podcast app, we would appreciate you. But that's going to do it. Catch you on the next one.